UFC London. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Main event, Alexander Volkov versus Tom Aspinall. This is an amazing card, and I cannot wait to go through each and every fight. Guys, smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn those post notifications on, and share the video as well. And let's jump right into it. First fight of the night is a fantastic one. It's Jai Herbert versus Ilia Topuria. Love this fight. Super excited to see Jai Herbert in London against probably the scariest prospect we have right now in the lower weight classes. Ilia Topuria looks like a problem. Out the gate, I'm going to tell you, I am picking the Ilia Topuria side. I feel that he is something special. Jai Herbert's not a bad fighter, though. I mean, he's a pretty talented kickboxer, rangy guy. He has a height and reach advantage, and the reach advantage is substantial. 8-inch reach advantage. That's a serious difference maker, and he's a guy that controls distance pretty well. The difference is Topuria has amazing ability to close distance. He's super explosive, and his grappling skill set is fantastic. I would truly say serious knockout power in the hands. I think Topuria is going to work his way in close behind the stiff jab, rip the body of Herbert a bit, and look to get the fight to the floor. On the opposite side, I mean, Herbert needs to avoid the grappling and really just avoid being super close to Topuria, because I think he'll find himself in big trouble if he gets there. I think Ilia Topuria by submission is the pick. As far as the betting odds, this fight is, of course, going to be widespread towards the Topuria side. Minus 370 for Topuria, plus 325 for Jai Herbert. I'm very confident Topuria gets it done. If you're propping it, I would go inside distance. I like Topuria here for the win. I really think submission, but I wouldn't be surprised if he hurts Jai Herbert's striking. The reach is a factor, and I'm very excited to see how Topuria deals with that. I think he succeeds. I think Topuria beats Jai Herbert in London in emphatic fashion. I'm leaning submission first or second round, and I think he's a fantastic play with maybe inside distance. Could be a parlay addition, but it is wide as far as the money line play. But Ilia Topuria getting it done in our first fight of the night. It's a great one. Let's keep running up. Next fight of the night, Nathaniel Wood versus Vince Morales. I think this is really good matchmaking, and I don't feel Morales is an easy fight for Wood by any means. That being said, I'm picking the Nathaniel Wood side. He looks like a real prospect to keep an eye on here. Granted, 2 losses in his past 3, but you look at the names, John Dodson, and that was 2 years ago, who's a high-level fighter, now no longer with the UFC, but still very top of the line. Casey Kenny, real top guy in the top 15. Vince Morales is a pretty decent kickboxer, though. I mean, he has pretty solid movement, controls distance okay, and finds himself in close range well, and does come from a wrestling base. But on the opposite side, Nathaniel Wood does have a clear speed advantage here. I like his persistent low kick attack that he'll bring to the table, and he moves really fast. His footwork is excellent, and I do think him closing distance with punches, he'll find some openings on the Vince Morales striking style. The guard, I see shots sliding through for Wood. As far as how competitive this fight will be, I think it's a lot closer than the lines. I think Nathaniel Wood goes out and wins a hard-fought decision. I think Vince Morales is there for the 3 rounds. Looking at the odds for this one, Wood is a big favorite. Minus 247, best value, plus 235 for Morales. I think Nathaniel Wood does win. I don't think it's an easy matchup. I think he gets, a couple rounds over on Vince Morales, but no way is this an easy fight for Nathaniel Wood. I think the lines should be a lot closer here. It makes it hard to bet Wood. I like this fight going a bit longer. I think we're probably definitely going over that 2.5 mark here, but Nathaniel Wood definitely beating Morales. Hard-fought decision, impressive fight, good prospect fight for Wood. He's the prospect. That's the nickname, and I really still think he is in this bantamweight division. Is going to be coming into his own, and I'm excited to see him fight Vince Morales. He should look pretty decent here, but I don't doubt Morales. I see Morales as a real difficult guy to fight, and he can make it competitive, but still Wood getting the victory. Nathaniel Wood, prospect, legit prospect, getting it done. Let's keep running up. Next fight, Elise versus Cory McKenna. These ladies going after it here. Cory McKenna is super young, 22 years of age, real good prospect. On the opposite side, Elise Reed, 4-1 record, former champion at Cage Fury. Bad fight. Sajora Eubanks in her debut, she fights her and just gets slaughtered up a weight class. I'll be honest with you, Cory McKenna has very good grappling chops. I think she does win this fight. I'm picking her out the gate here. I like her hands too. She works with a pretty decent double jab and likes to move constantly. She's pretty quick in close range, and she is strong in the clinch. Might land some takedowns on Reed here. But Elise Reed is a pretty talented kickboxer in her own right. She has pretty nice low kicks. Her punch combinations are pretty good. And I will say she is fairly athletic. You can't look at that Sajora Eubanks fight as a tell-all and say this is easy work from McKenna. I like Cory McKenna with a stoppage by submission in the second or third round, but not an easy matchup, and I don't want to sleep on Elise Reed here. The lines are wide, -225 McKenna, Reed +207 best value. I like McKenna to win. I like her by submission. But Elise Reed could still be competitive here, and it's crazy. McKenna might have the shortest reach in the UFC with just 58-inch reach. Not long arms on the other side with Elise Reed either. I like Cory McKenna. I think she'll work a good jab, might mix in some takedowns, and I think getting this fight to the floor, she'll find advantages, and I do believe she finds that submission late here and gets it done over Elise Reed. Fun ladies fight. Next fight. Mike Grundy versus Makwan Amirkhani. Both guys on losing streaks. 2 for Grundy, 3 for Amirkhani. I like Mike Grundy here. He has a pretty damn good Greco wrestling base, and I feel like with his pretty good boxing attack, he'll find good openings on Makwan Amirkhani. I think striking, Grundy has more power. I think grappling, Amirkhani brings a submission threat. I think it's competitive in the grappling exchanges. Amirkhani has a very flow striking style. He's a rangy guy. I mean, he is a southpaw and he starts fast. He gets a little bit reckless at times, and he also tends to fade later into fights. I still have to respect Amirkhani going long here. I don't think that Mike Grundy is going to absolutely run over him and stop him. I think Grundy goes out, wins a decision, outboxes Amirkhani, may land some takedowns of his own, but you can't sleep on Amirkhani's wrestling. He has a pretty good freestyle base. I think it's competitive in the wrestling and might turn into a bit of a striking match. I think it favors Grundy. I think in the clinch it favors Grundy as well. I like Mike Grundy to win a decision. Looking at the lines here, the odds are not bad. -132 best value for Grundy. Makwan Amirkhani +120. I'm on that Mike Grundy side. I like him to win, and I do think he beats Makwan by a decision. Makwan was supposed to be like this real legit SBG Ireland prospect. He's never really lived up to that hype, and I think Mike Grundy stylistically can win. I don't think Grundy is an easy fight for really any of these featherweights. You look at the loss, Movsar Evloev and Lando Venata. Not terrible losses on the record. I think he's going to beat Makwan Amirkhani. I wouldn't even be surprised if Grundy TKOs him late too. Loving Mike Grundy. He beats Makwan Amirkhani in this fight. I will pick decision, but there's always a chance for a late TKO. Next fight of the night, Mokaev versus Cody Durden. Mokaev is the prospect I think the flyweight division has been waiting years for. He is truly impressive. Amateur record, note this, 23-0. Unbeaten as an amateur fighter, turns pro, is now 5-0 with 1 no contest. And he's looked fantastic doing it. I think he's going to beat Cody Durden up here. I don't think it's a super competitive fight. Durden's a pretty pressure-heavy fighter, good wrestling background, has fought in pro kickboxing and professional boxing. So Durden's not a slouch standing up, but I don't think he shines at all here. I think Mokaev is another level striking. He has a very patient but high-level pressure striking attack. Strings his combinations together beautifully, mixes in takedowns well, has a very good submission game, and I'm telling you guys, keep your eye on Mokaev. I have him for the win. I'm thinking he's going to submit Cody Durden in 1 round. I don't see this being a very competitive fight. I see Mokaev destroying Durden, getting it done in England where he fights out of, so it's going to be a loud pop from the crowd. And the flyweight division has somebody to watch here. 5'9", that's a pretty good frame for the flyweight division. 21 years of age. Mokaev's a problem moving forward, guys. Looking at the line, super wide. -320, Mokaev, +311, Durden. I like Mokaev all day here. Cody Durden, no slouch, but I think submission is pretty realistic. Jimmy Flick was able to submit Cody Durden in that first round. Very different styles than Mokaev. I see more of a striking threat from Mokaev on Durden, and I think on the floor, Mokaev definitely has the advantage with the submissions. Durden does have like that good traditional wrestling base, but I don't think it's enough for the overall mixed martial arts wrestling and grappling style game of Mokaev. I think he finds the sub. I wouldn't be surprised with a knockout. I love him here. Mokaev for the win. Definitely gets it done inside of the distance, and I really am thinking that first round is where he's going to get the finish. The next fight of the night, Molly McCann Meatball takes on Luana Carolina. This is an interesting stylistic matchup here. Carolina has a big advantage as far as the reach department does go. I like Luana Carolina's chances of upsetting McCann in England. Some of these English fighters are going to take a loss here, and it's just how the fight game goes. There's going to be some dogs that really come through. I think Luana Carolina, with her Muay Thai, is a problem. She is a little bit awkward with it, but she's got some pretty quick hands. She fights well from range, good straight shots, scrambles extremely well on the floor. Even if you take her down, she's not easy to keep down. Lupita Godinez is an excellent grappler. Luana Carolina was able to defeat her. Granted, that was different weight class for Lupita. Still, very impressive. Carolina is good. Not great, but good. Stylistically, you look at Molly McCann on the opposite side. It's a girl who starts fast with a very boxing-heavy attack. Power in her hands, certainly. Good pressure, decent in the clinch as well. And I think she will potentially look to take down Carolina, but it's going to be a lot harder than you'd expect. Carolina is not an easy girl to take down, a harder girl to control. I think Luana Carolina, with a wide array of striking attacks, gets it done by a decision here and a fairly competitive fight. Hopefully the English judges don't sway it towards McCann if it's close, but I think Carolina does get a deserving decision. Plus 113, Carolina. McCann minus 115. Give me that underdog, Luana Carolina. I believe she gets it done. I think she's got a clear speed advantage striking. She's not going to be easy to deal with on the ground, and I think she beats Molly McCann. Luana Carolina for the victory. I mean, you look at the past couple. Polina Botello was a super close fight. Ariane Lipsky knee barred her. Priscilla Cachoeira she beat, and Lupita Godinez she beat. Granted, resumes on both sides are iffy. Jin Yoon Kim in the last one, and then 2 losses. Procopio beat her, Talia Santos beats her, and I think Carolina beats her on a competitive decision. Can't fully count out the meatball, but I like the striking advantages for Carolina here with the range, the speed. She's a Muay Thai champion. You got to go Luana Carolina for the win in this one, especially as an underdog. Next fight of the night, Jack Tank Shore versus Timur Valiev. Valiev is a problem still. I mean, outside of that Trevin Jones knockout loss, a fight that he was dominating, he has looked very good in the UFC. Jack Shore is unbeaten as a professional. So it's interesting, right? Valiev 18-2, excellent fighter outside of the UFC, comes over, now taking on Jack Shore, who's unbeaten. It's a tricky one to pick really here, but I have to go the high-level experience Valiev side. Shore is a pretty smooth kickboxer with very good wrestling and a persistent wrestling style attack. He's got well-timed takedowns. He's very good on top. But overall, I'd say he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist. His kickboxing is nice. Dexterity in the legs is fantastic. And he does have pretty quick hands. Timur Valiev, I think, brings more knockout power. I believe he's the physically stronger guy. You got a fighter from Russia. I mean, he trains with those Dagestanis. There's definitely very good wrestling there. He has a certainly strong base. He also attacks with really good low kicks, and I feel like also explosion favors Valiev. He does this weird like jumping body crane kick that actually works pretty well. We saw it against Barcelos. We might see a bit of it here. I think Valiev gets it done in this fight in a super competitive battle, but Valiev taking at least 2 of the 3 rounds, beating the unbeaten Jack Shore. Now, it's not easy to take an O from an undefeated fighter, but I think Valiev would be the guy to do it, and I'm predicting that he's going to beat the undefeated Jack Shore. Looking at the lines, let's see, plus 146 for sure. Valiev minus 144, odds ranging around there. Of course, there's going to be heavy attack on the Jack Shore underdog side, and rightfully so. I'm by no means saying Valiev is an easy fight, absolute lock. Definitely not. This is a true challenge, but I believe Valiev has more tools, higher level experience for a long period of time, and I believe he's going to beat Jack Shore on a decision here, in what should be a very interesting fight in this bantamweight division. Let's keep running up the card. Next fight of the night brings us to the main card. If you guys have not yet, smash that like button, and if you're new, subscribe to the channel. Nikita Krylov versus Paul Craig. Light heavyweight collision here. I like the Paul Craig side, and he's also an underdog. I will note that. I'll throw the lines at you right away. For this fight, Paul Craig is sitting upwards of plus 158, Krylov minus 170. I love Paul Craig as an underdog. You look at losses for Krylov recently. Submission to Blachowicz. Close decision against Teixeira. That was impressive. And then he lost Ankalaev by a decision. Has been submitted previously in the past in the UFC, outside the UFC. Serkunov comes to mind. Paul Craig is a submission ace who has a pretty rangy kickboxing style. Now, both guys about the same height. Reach, not much of a difference. An inch and a half favors Krylov. I don't think it does a ton here. Krylov's a pretty well-rounded guy. Ton of MMA experience at this point. Was in the UFC, released from the UFC, came back to the UFC. I think he's a staple in that top 12, top 10 rank. Krylov is like the ultimate top-level gatekeeper. He's not going to beat the best of the best, but he's going to beat majority of good fighters. Paul Craig has an opportunity to surpass and break into those real-deal rankings and maybe get a top contender fight. He's talked about maybe retiring, but if he beats Krylov here, I feel like Paul Craig has title implications. I mean, he has a win over Magomed Ankalaev, the only guy to do it. Maybe they run back that rematch. Maybe Paul Craig finds himself in a huge fight. Maybe Anthony Smith, that's a name that comes to mind, with a win. Granted, he needs to get past a well-rounded Nikita Krylov, who has a pretty decent kickboxing style, solid takedown defense. I mean, there's a lot of tough aspects to get through for Paul Craig, but I believe he will overcome this. On the floor, Craig has a clear-cut advantage. I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls guard here. Now, do I expect him to get that submission like he did against Jamal Hill, destroying his arm? Probably not. I think this fight will be a little bit harder to get to the floor, and I think Krylov is going to be cautious of the grappling game and want to keep it standing. I don't see serious KO power on the Krylov side, especially Paul Craig, not a guy that I consider chinny, especially now. I mean, he's turned it up. He's got 3 fights in a row with wins. 4-0-1 his last 5. The draw with Shogun, then he avenges it with a pretty vicious TKO, where actually submission to strikes by Shogun Hua. I like Paul Craig, man. These 3 wins are big, and the Jamal Hill one is huge because Hill's looking like a serious prospect as well. Gazarmat into Gulov submits him. I'm going Paul Craig win by submission. I like him as an underdog. As I said, the value of it sitting at nice plus, nearly plus 160. Depending where you go. I love Paul Craig at plus money. I will be touching the submission prop as well. I think that's a pretty decent play, and I like Paul for the W. I think he's going to beat Nikita Krylov and get past that ultimate gatekeeper test. I think he breaks through the door in this fight in England, London, which I'm telling you guys, this card is fantastic. I literally cannot wait for this event, and it starts early too. It's 1 p.m. Eastern time start. I'll be live for the whole card, so make sure you're here for that fight companion on Saturday. Next fight, Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Sergei Pavlovich. Dude, I was ready to jump on the Abdurakhimov dog side, but digging on Pavlovich, I can't sleep on this guy. I think he's going to knock out a slower and aging Abdurakhimov here. Now, prime Shamil Abdurakhimov was just one of the trickiest guys to fight in the heavyweight division because he can wrestle, he has knockout power, and he doesn't look good physically, right? It's a guy that you don't want to lose to Shamil Abdurakhimov. Sergei Pavlovich, when you look back, even the fight against Overeem, he had moments, and that was years ago. He has not fought in 2 years, but he's on a 2-fight winning streak. He built like a prospect, 6'3", 84-inch reach. Pavlovich is an absolute freak. Striking, he's very patient with his attack, but he has ultimate knockout power, something special in that right hand. If he touches you, he will put you down, brings in a Greco-Roman wrestling background. Also a pretty decent jab. He's a long guy. You better be able to use that jab. And here, that will come in handy. Now, Shamil is not a bad wrestler in his own right. He's got pretty well-timed takedowns. A little bit flat-footed. Likes to fight in that center of the cage. Will throw looping punches. And when he lands, they do damage. First round knockout of Marcin Tybura. Granted, some time ago. How many years ago was that now? Almost 3 years ago. But that's Marcin Tybura. That's not an easy guy to put away. 2 straight losses. Curtis Blades, top class. Chris Daukaus, top contender class. Funny enough, those two are facing off in the next card that we'll be breaking down after this one. I like Sergei Pavlovich. I think he's going to get a KO, guys. I think he's doing it in the second round. I think he'll be pretty conservative in that first round, find his openings, take his time with Shamil, but I think Pavlovich gets him done. And I was trying to look at Abdurakhimov as a dog, but man, I see him getting starched with the right hand. Minus 280 Pavlovich, Abdurakhimov plus 257. I love this one, potentially by knockout. I think Pavlovich does get it done by a KO. He's looking like a pretty good prospect, built well for the weight class. Only 29 years of age versus a 40-year-old. Got to go the youth, got to go the potential. And honestly, I like what I see from the footage for Sergei Pavlovich to beat the 40-year-old Shamil Abdurakhimov here by knockout. And I will pick second round as a Mystic Mac pick there. Next fight of the night, Gunnar Nelson returns. He takes on Takashi Sato. When's Nelson's last fight? Nearly 2.5 years ago. Lost to Burns on a competitive decision. That's a loss that's aged well. Takashi Sato, bad loss to Miguel Baeza, but I don't think we can judge him from that loss. Go back to that Bilal Muhammad fight. He took Bilal down, and look how great Bilal has become. Trains over at Sanford MMA. You might see Usman in the corner for him at times. Takashi Sato is a problem. I'm picking Takashi Sato. He's been more active. He has knockout power in the hands, has a very good judo background. Gunnar Nelson has a karate striking style, but that chin is high. Look at Ponzinibbio knock him out years ago. Look at the way he puts pressure on opponents. A lot of clinch grappling. A judo fighter like Sato is going to be very good there, especially at 170, especially with this explosion of Sato. I feel like also the southpaw stance is something to note. Sato chops the low kicks pretty well. Gunnar Nelson comes inside with the chin a bit high, peppering a jab. I see the straight left from Sato starching Gunnar Nelson. Now, I'm not going to give you an exact round. I'm kind of feeling first or second, but I'm thinking knockout Takashi Sato. I think the lines are way off on this one. They're really sleeping on Takashi Sato. I think he's going to get a W, guys. I really believe he could get it done here. I don't see significant striking threat like you had with Baeza in the last one to maybe hurt Sato and then look for a submission. I think Sato can get the upset. Call me crazy, but I'm picking him. Plus 304, Takashi Sato. Gunnar Nelson, minus 325. The odds will sway your mind on this one, but when you dig on Sato, you look at that Bilal fight. You even look at win over Witt, one touch. Even his loss to Baeza, that's a tricky kickboxer. Gunnar Nelson doesn't have the power in the stand-up. He's going to be looking to clinch up, grapple, and put it against the cage. I think Sato shines there. I think when Gunnar's entering range with that long karate style, he's getting touched and he's getting put down. Knockout Takashi Sato, jumping on the serious underdog in this one, and I do believe he wins, guys. Knockout Takashi Sato. All right, our featured bout of the night, Paddy Pimblett is back, and he fights Rodrigo Kazula Vargas. The baddie has become the biggest prospect in MMA now. I mean, everybody's on him. Barstool Sports signs him. This kid's for real as far as the hype goes. But how will he perform when he fights a durable guy like Kazula Vargas who has a proven chin? I'll tell you this, Paddy Pimblett's best method to win is going to be looking for grappling here. I'm still picking Paddy Pimblett. I am. But these odds are crazy here. Right now, Paddy Pimblett, minus 400 best value, plus 347 Kazula Rodrigo Vargas. Kazula Vargas is still going to be live here. You look at the fight against Zhu Rong in the last one. He gave him hell. He made it very competitive. Gas towards the end of it, which is a telling sign and something that I like for Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett cannot get reckless early. Fighting with the chin super high. Kazula Vargas is a tricky southpaw with quick hands. He can land a stiff jab and then lug an overhand over the top, and he could potentially put Paddy Pimblett down. I know he says Stouzers don't get knocked out, but if you get hit on the chin with a clean punch by Kazula Vargas, you could, especially if you're not respecting the power coming at you. I believe Paddy Pimblett will have done some film study on Kazula Vargas. He's going to come in smart here. He knows Vargas starts fast, puts a lot of pressure early, heavy attack. Honestly, Vargas is pretty well-rounded. He's good on the ground. He's good striking. He is live in this underdog spot, but he's 36 years of age. He's never really had like a super huge win through his career. Paddy Pimblett is the prospect we're hoping for. Everybody's praying he wins. I'm praying he wins. I'm a Paddy Pimblett fan, but I have to acknowledge this isn't an easy matchup. I feel like we need to see Paddy fight smart from the outside. When he does close distance and rush, be cautious of fucking shots being lugged over the top right back at you. I think Paddy Pimblett's success comes on the ground. I think he finds a submission in the second or third round. I like Paddy Pimblett win by a submission. If you're betting Pimblett, maybe you have him on a parlay. You're going to potentially be nervous when Kazula Vargas might land a big shot early. Look at that Vendermini fight. A guy that starts fast, caught Paddy Pimblett early on. That chin is up high, and it's going to be a concern, especially the more he climbs the rankings. And you look at Kazula Vargas' UFC record, and you say, oh, he's 1-2 in the UFC. Disqualification, which a fight he was dominating, and he was an underdog too. It was against Brock Weaver. Lost to Alex De Silva. His grandmother literally died before he took the flight. He had just went to the funeral. Mentally, maybe wasn't there. Still goes distance with Alex De Silva, who's gone long with Brad Riddell. Beat Zhu Rong. That was 10 months ago. Paddy Pimblett since then has come in with momentum. Seems like the next big thing, the new star in the making. Pimblett needs to fight smart. I suggest you he will. He's going to get the submission. I'm thinking second or third round. Grappling will lead here. I feel like Pimblett needs to display those grappling chops in this one. The big favorite, Paddy Pimblett, should win. Maybe we prop something up with Pimblett by sub. Maybe you throw a little bit down on Kazula Vargas to win as well, because he's a pretty widespread underdog. But I do like Paddy the Batty Pimblett to get it done. But the odds could be a lot closer, and I really wish they were. Co-main event of the evening. Arnold Allen versus Dan Hooker. I've sat on this one for a while. I've looked at a lot of footage, and I've really had to think, like, okay, Dan Hooker's dropping to 45. How will he look? I will be honest, I checked through the Instagram. His body's looking like it's responding well. Granted, we won't know until Friday. When we do the weigh-in recap show, that's something you're really going to want to tune into, because after the weigh-ins, I'm really going to be able to tell how Dan Hooker looked. Right now, I'll tell you this. Arnold Allen is a very difficult fight for him stylistically, but I'm going to pick the Dan Hooker side. He has a high rate of takedown defense. I know Islam Makhachev in the last one took him down and easily tapped him out, but that's Islam Makhachev. That's up here. That's the best. That's the best grappling in MMA right now, or at least best at 155. Arnold Allen is a really good featherweight, somebody to keep an eye on. He's young, 28. But Dan Hooker dropping the weight class, I believe he's going to be ready. The City kickboxing team all have good takedown defense. From range, Hooker has real advantages with the kickboxing. He's 4 inches taller, 5.5-inch reach advantage. Doesn't account for the leg advantage. Very good straight shots, solid kicks. He controls distance well with a patient pressure attack. Uses that lead hand as a range finder and a distance manager. Arnold Allen's striking hasn't been super impressive to me. He's okay standing up. Grappling, he's going to look to clinch up and put Hooker against the cage. I think Hooker needs to defend those clinch exchanges, and he might get clinched up at points, and there might be time for Arnold Allen, and maybe he has moments for sure, but he's unproven. I haven't seen him at the top level yet. I haven't seen him win against the best. He beat Sadiq Yusuf, who's a pretty good fighter, but it's not Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker has had great moments in the lightweight division. He was never a great fighter at 45. So be concerned betting this fight. You want to see the weigh-ins. I would personally wait before you play Dan Hooker, but I like Dan Hooker to beat Arnold Allen, win by a decision. But this should be a true test for Dan the Hangman Hooker. And you know Allen is trying to get him to the floor and lock up a submission. 100%. Granted, Allen tends to win decisions. I think Hooker's defense will come through and his striking is a level above. Dan Hooker win decision, but I want to see him on the scale. -110, Hooker, Allen +103. It's a pick'ems fight, guys. And I'm going the Dan Hooker way in this one. Let's jump to the main event. Alexander Volkov versus Tom Aspinall. If you guys haven't yet, smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Alexander Volkov, Tom Aspinall, main event of UFC London. It's a fantastic fight. I cannot wait to see who gets it done. I'll tell you straight out the gate, I'm picking Tom Aspinall. I really think he's a problem prospect. He has looked fantastic standing up. He has extremely good speed for a heavyweight, and a guy that weighs almost 250 pounds. He's 6'5". He's a big dude. Alexander Volkov is a good rangy technical kickboxer, certainly, and will give a lot of guys problems through the heavyweight division. But Tom Aspinall is going to find a way to close distance well. I think the boxing of Aspinall is fantastic. When he closes that distance, he rips big shots in close range. I wrote down that he has some excellent straight punches. He has a really good lead hand, and then he follows it with a nice straight down the line. And I think that straight carries a lot of power, especially on a guy like Volkov, who usually uses a big reach advantage, stays away from guys, but isn't super quick on his feet. Clear-cut speed advantage, Aspinall. He has excellent feints, and I feel like he's going to use them to close distance. And don't be surprised if Aspinall tries to mix in some takedowns. Now, I don't know if he'll get Volkov to the floor, but I think he could mix in some takedown attempts. Maybe he does get Volkov down, and Aspinall ends up getting a submission win. But I think those threats will make Volkov a little wary. I think Aspinall could come over the top with shots, land some serious punches. Volkov, more of a guy that likes to fight off the back foot and point fight for distance. He needs to go 5 rounds here. Yes, Volkov went 5 rounds with Curtis Blades. Yes, he went 5 rounds with Cyril Gane. Neither of those guys have the finishing abilities of Tom Aspinall. I'm telling you, this kid is a real prospect. I have my eye on him as a future contender. I think he's a serious problem. He might be the best technical boxer in the heavyweight division right now. Tom Aspinall win, knockout. I'm thinking 2nd or 3rd round here. I think he's going to sleep Alexander Volkov. And UFC London, the whole arena there is going to go absolutely crazy when their native son gets it done. And we got a heavyweight prospect from England that might be fighting for a belt in 2023. Keep your eye on Tom Aspinall. I think he beats Alexander Volkov. And honestly, when you look at Volkov's last fight against Topuria, there were telltale signs, and I think Aspinall will find openings and do some serious damage. Aspinall's last one destroyed Spivak easily, who's not a bad fighter. Andrei Arlovsky, legend, chokes him out in the second, hurt him bad in the first. And then you look at the last two, Cyril Gane, not a bad loss. Gane is top class, excellent striking. And then Topuria, win by a dominant decision. Even when you look at Volkov versus Greg Hardy, sometimes he underperforms against dangerous strikers, and Aspinall is not somebody to underperform against. Aspinall for the win. The knockout power will be the difference maker, and ultimately the speed. I see him sleeping the tall giant, the Russian Alexander Drago Volkov, going to bed. Tom Aspinall for the W. The odds are so close here. Minus 106, Volkov best value. Plus 100, Aspinall. I like Aspinall a lot here, guys. I think he's getting it done, and I do think he gets a knockout. Fantastic main event. Great card overall. UFC London is going to be absolute fire. It's at the O2 Arena. This is going to have a pay-per-view feel, and it's on ESPN+. It's going to be at a special start time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, so earlier on in the day. I'll be live for the whole card, so tune into that Fight Companion. It's going to be fantastic stuff, and I literally cannot wait for this weekend. Guys, much love. Thank you all for the continued support. Smash that like button here. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn the post notifications on so you don't miss a video. I got content dropping all week long, so you want to keep it locked in right here at MMA Experts. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the picks, and if you really enjoyed, share the video as well. Much love, my people, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, guys.